Hey, what is up YouTube? This is Powerhouse here with another one of my videos, and today we're going to tackle Dynasty Warriors this time. Last time we did the Samurai Warriors series, but now we're going to do Dynasty Warriors, which is obviously the Koei's flagship hack and slash series. That's definitely has seen its share of ups and downs, and when you got 9 main games, yeah, there's going to be a lot of differences in between. Now, this is just going to focus on the main games and not any of the spin-offs or any of the empires. That stuff is not going to be considered, just the main titles. So without further ado, let's start off with the first one. So I like how in this tier list it's all lined up in order, which I really prefer. There's no didn't play list, but I'm going to rank them accordingly. So the first one is, again, the first Dynasty Warriors. This one is so odd compared to the rest of them because the first Dynasty Warriors was a fighting game and not actually a hack and slash game like the rest of them. For a fighting game, it's pretty decent for the time. This game, I believe Soul Blade came after it. Soul Blade is far superior, you know, as a weapons-based fighter. But for what this game offered, it was fun enough. The combos were pretty easy to learn, and it was cool, you know, kicking ass as Xiaohuduan and all those. So it's always pretty cool. It was, like I said, a solid game. Would I recommend really going back to it? It's a nice little novelty. Like I said, there are better fighting games for that time period, but when it comes to a weapons fighter of that time period, it's pretty solid. Small cast though of characters, unfortunately. I don't think it's terrible, but I think it's kind of an anomaly compared to these other ones. So I'm gonna put it at the B tier because I think it's solid enough to warrant a recommendation. And like I said, it's a little bit different, so it's novel in that way, but not much more than that. Next we have Dynasty Warriors 2, which is basically the beginning of the series. This is pretty bare bones when you compare it to the rest of the series. Pretty small roster. It was more characters here than in the first game. But it's a pretty small roster. Voice acting is horrendously bad, as all the Dynasty Warriors games are. But it was, you know, it was solid for the time. But, you know, like I said, there weren't really a lot of modes, just kind of the main Musu mode, and that's really it. I believe there was a free mode, but I could be mistaken. Yeah, but it was pretty novel and fun for the time. It was pretty cool. But it's definitely has shown its age, and it's definitely, when it comes to all the Dynasty Warriors, definitely on the weaker side. It's, like I said, it's been surpassed by the future titles. So there really is no reason in coming back to this one. So, I mean, I'm going to just put this at D because it's honestly pretty forgettable, you know, compared to the other ones. Now, the one that's everyone's favorite and the one that everyone seems to come back to as the peak of Dynasty Warriors is Dynasty Warriors 3. Now, I can definitely agree to this to some extent. I definitely believe it was probably the smoothest. They added a couple new modes into it. I didn't get to play Dynasty Warriors 3 all that much. However, definitely, you know, it was a lot of people's fun. I think it falls in that same category as Dynasty Warriors 2, though, in some respects. As going back to it, it's not as good as a lot of people will make it out to be. I definitely think it does have some flaws. You know, voice acting still horrendously bad, but this time a little bit funnier. More characters added. And there was, like, I think 2 characters that were like unique for the time. I think Nuwa and Fushi was came in this one. I believe so. I could be wrong on that one. But yeah, definitely, you know, it's obviously Dynasty Warriors is kind of more the same as you progress through it. But it was pretty good for what it added, and definitely felt like a more polished, updated version for Dynasty Warriors 2. While I don't think it's really that much better in terms of compared to the other ones. I gotta see where to put it. I definitely won't put it at D tier. If I'm gonna put Dynasty Warriors 1 at B tier, I think I can throw Dynasty Warriors 3. Let's give it some respect. I think I can throw it there. Now the next one is Dynasty Warriors 4. Now this one I played a lot of. Not because it was necessarily the best, but just because, you know, it's the most easily accessible to me. The cool thing I forgot to mention about the older Dynasty Warriors is that they're pretty hard, and I remember this one was actually fairly tough, but I felt like the frame rate for some reason was far lower in this one, and the number of officers was lower as well compared to 3. I could be wrong on that, but I feel like just the game kind of just plays slower. Again, it's that PS2, it's those PS2 isms I mentioned when talking about the Samurai Warriors games. So this one I played a good amount. Had a pretty decent character customization. This one introduced duels, and I remember that one being very, very cool in the Empire's expansion pack. So this one I think is cool in certain ways. The duels, like I said, I would like for them to bring them back in newer Dynasty Warriors games, but it doesn't look like it's something that they're going to do. Again, it's kind of more the same, more characters. The maps were updated. Some of the level design is pretty solid here. Voice acting still hilariously bad, but it looks like they were at least trying here. Oh, and the other Kingdom stories is pretty good. Is it on the... It's definitely, again, above Dynasty Warriors 2. On the same level as Dynasty Warriors 3. And I think there's going to be a lot of argument on there. But I'm going to... Because I don't think it's, like, worse than Dynasty Warriors 3 or anything like that. And like I said, I did play this one a lot. I thought it was pretty solid for the time. So I definitely am going to put this at the B tier. Alright, next is Dynasty Warriors 5. And I definitely think this was a definite step up from Dynasty Warriors 4. Again, this is just focused on the main series, because the Empire series, Dynasty Warriors 5 Empires, is my favorite. It's probably my favorite Dynasty Warriors game of all time. And the only one that beats it is, like I said, Samurai Warriors 2 Empires. But since it's just the main series, I'll go off of that. Each character had their own story mode this time around, which made a lot of replay value. So there was definitely a lot of content there, and the most amount of characters. I mean, you had my boy Zwosi for the first time. I think that's how you pronounce it. Could be wrong. Apologies. So definitely, yeah, I really enjoyed the combat in this one. Lu Bu was arguably weaker though, which was a bit disappointing. In Dynasty Warriors 3 and 4, he was OP. And he still is to an extent, but I feel like he got weaker in this one. I really did enjoy Dynasty Warriors 5, and this one I definitely, still come back to. I feel like it's still pretty solid. It has some of those PS2 isms, like I mentioned, like it's a bit slow. But if you do have the Empire's version, I recommend that to play that. I definitely do think it's a step up from 4 and 3. I feel like it was just a lot more polished overall, and like I said, more characters. Again, more of the same, but I just felt like it was an overall step up from 4. So we're gonna put this on the A tier. It barely edges it out, but we'll put this on the A tier. Alright, the next game is Dynasty Warriors 6. This one was a controversial title. It was the first for the new generation of PS3 titles, and they really tried to change too much. I think this was Koei's response in people asking for Dynasty Warriors to change. But I think they fundamentally changed way too much. The combat system was changed with the Renbu system, so instead of going, pressing X 4 times and then pressing square 4 times and then pressing triangle for like a combo, and just knowing when to do certain combos and how to really maximize combos, which is part of the fun of Dynasty Warriors. Simple yet fun gameplay. This dumbed it down way too much, where it was just you just mash square or you just mash triangle, and very little variation in between. I believe this also came. No, I think the Empire's one came out for the 360, and I think this one also came out for the 360. I'm not sure about that one, but I know this was for PC as well. But yeah, it was just overall a step backwards. And I remember at the time really enjoying this one because the cutscenes are fantastic, and I really enjoyed Lu Bu's campaign as well. But overall, it was a step back. There was actually less characters this time around, which was disappointing. Everyone had the same weapon too. There was a lack of variation. Honestly, this was just really just not a good, this was just a huge step back. Graphics was obviously improved from 5, but and the number of troops too. But man, they really this was an overall step back, and even the Empire series too was just a step back. So I'm not going to put this on the D tier, even though I think some people will feel that way. It has some redeemable qualities. Like I said, the graphics were improved, and I do like the cutscenes and the stories. I thought were pretty interesting, even though it still isn't 100%. It wasn't as historical accurate as the future titles will get. I still think that it was good enough. All right, the next is Dynasty Warriors 7. So this one I remember being really excited about. They had over 70 characters, I think, or something like that. They had some pretty cool new additions that I was looking forward to. They were bringing back a lot of the old weapons. Like Xiao Duin was going to get back to his old sword routes. So I was like, okay, this is awesome. Like, this is going to be, one of the best. And honestly, I played the hell out of the story modes. The story modes are absolutely fantastic. I love the cutscenes, the drama, the voice acting is top notch here. Great delivery by everyone. Love the cutscenes. Oh man, so much into it. I remember just the Tao death scene was really, really strong, and it was a great way to end the Wei campaign. They also introduced the Jin faction, which was pretty cool, because for the first time ever, instead of telling the same story, there was actually an expansion to it, which was definitely needed for this time. So there was a lot of great steps and a lot of good decisions that Dynasty Warrior 7 made. A lot of steps into the right direction. However, there were some noticeable issues. Even though the combat was far superior to 6, a lot of characters shared the same weapons, so it got very repetitive. The Musu's changed too. So instead of it being a bar, it was like Musu shots, which was cool. I did really like that. But like I said, outside of those things, every character kind of felt the same, because this was the one that introduced weapon switching, which I thought was awesome, for the time. But it was way more expanded in the sequel, which we will get to. But yeah, I just felt like everyone kind of had the same weapon by the end of it. And I think I completed the conquest mode, but to do the achievements, I really just couldn't do it. It was just too much with the bonds and all that stuff, and conquest mode could get very grindy by the end of it. And I kind of just lost interest there, and I honestly really haven't gone back to Dynasty Warrior 7 after playing 8, and I'll get to why. But I still think it was really fun. I mean, I put a ton of time into Dynasty Warrior 7, so like I always say, you gotta respect the playtime. And like I said, huge step up from 6. Love the story mode, easily the best story mode in the series. So yeah, I would definitely highly recommend you seek out Dynasty Warrior 7. So all the things I said about Dynasty Warrior 7, when it comes to the negatives, Dynasty Warriors 8 addressed it fully. It's Dynasty Warriors 8, let's just put it up here. Yeah, easily my favorite in the series. The new characters that they introduced, Yue Jin especially, was so cool with the dual hooks. I don't know if you guys have watched Avatar The Last Airbender, but if you did, there's this character named Jet, who I get people don't like him, people don't care about him, which is cool. But he had these and his personality is kind of whack. But anyways, he had like these dual hooks, and the fact that I actually can use those weapons in a Dynasty Warriors game was awesome. Yue Jin is one of my favorite characters in Dynasty Warriors as a whole. Personality is not that crazy, but he was so much fun to play as. So athletic, he was brolic, and honestly, I just thought he was a pretty cool character. Like, he just seemed like a pretty chill guy I would love to hang out with. I mean, Xiao Duin is my boy, but like, Xiao Duin, him, Yue Jin, man, put us all in a bar. We're gonna have a good time. I really enjoyed playing as him. They also expanded on the other stories, like the other stories. They added more characters to the Jin story. I thought Wei, Wu, and Shu's, their stories dropped a little bit, even though they did add like an alternative, what if scenarios, which was much appreciated. Gave much more replay value. The story mode itself, like the narrative, I felt like was a little bit weaker outside of the Jin story. The Jin story was actually much stronger because of the new characters that they introduced. Jia Chong was a surprise for me. I didn't think I was gonna like him as much based on his design, but his voice acting and everything was just fantastic. So that was cool, and the ambition mode was also solid. I love the weapons in this game, how you can mix the weapons between. Oh yeah, so besides the fact now you can like build weapons and like add different attributes, you can get really crazy OP with the weapons, which I did. I got really crazy into it. It's a lot of fun, you know, trying to min-max your weapons. But with the weapon system, with the combat now, they added a little bit of an extra strategy incentive to it, because now they have heaven, heaven, earth, and man. You know, the whole 3 things. I explained this a little bit in my Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires review, but basically this made weapon switching much more important, because if you were strong against that affinity, you were able to do I think it was called Musu Rush or whatever, something like that. Basically, if you damage them with the weapon that they're the affinity that they're weak to, you can do a Storm Rush. That's what it's called. You can do a special move against them. It does for an insane damage. So there was a lot more to it, and it made the combat much more engaging. Gameplay wise, Dynasty Warriors 8 is the peak when it comes to all these games. It's fast, great amount of characters, great amount of weapons to play around with, lots to do, modes are fantastic. Honestly, this was the height when it came to its combat of all the Dynasty Warriors, and that's to me why I play Dynasty Warriors. It's for the combat. I mean, I just love to kill them yellow turbans. You know how it goes. A lot to offer here. They've also brought back Jewel C, which is always, you know, it's always a plus in my book. So yeah, really like this one. This is the one that I feel like is the peak of the series. This is the height of the series. Now, unfortunately, you know, usually when a series peaks, it goes through some peaks and valleys. You know, it starts to decline a little bit. But Koei was like, nah, man, we're gonna just sharply decline. Need I say more? I think this has been covered. The launch was absolutely horrendous. They removed so many unique weapons from each character. A lot of the characters played almost the same. The open world was a joke and was highly exploitive, very easy with the whole grappling system. Honestly, I was really afraid of Dynasty Warriors becoming an open world. I remember someone said that and said it was going to be a great idea. I said, no, it's not. I don't know why people think like open worlds make every game so much better, just infinitely better, just because it's open world. I gotta be honest with you, a lot of open world games are starting to blend, and it's not a good time for like open world games in terms of quality. I feel like in the future we're really gonna start seeing less of them, because there's not a lot that these open world games are doing, and like I said, they are blending together, so it's not a good sign. But the point being is that it was a step down in so many ways. Narratively speaking, the voice acting was worse. The characters just weren't as fun to play with, because like I said, they all had the same weapons. Then they had the audacity to sell the unique weapons as DLC, which is even worse. People don't even like this game to begin with, and instead of Koei trying to like, you know, make amends and stuff like that, probably giving some free patches, or, you know, really just trying to fix things, they just, you know, charge for the stuff that should already be in the game. So this was just bad form on Koei from all levels. I mean, Dynasty Warriors 8 had a ridiculous amount of DLC, especially the complete edition, but this just like really took it to a whole new level for us, giving DLC to such an incomplete game. At least Dynasty Warriors 8 by itself was complete. This was incomplete and was just a bad move on Koei on so many parts. Skip this one. It's Dynasty Warriors 2 and 9, there's no redeeming qualities of those. 6 I can put at least at C, because at least they were trying some new things, and there's some cool things to play around with. Some, not a lot, some. But Dynasty Warriors 9, easily skippable. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I definitely did. Curious to see what your thoughts are. I know some people probably put like 3 or 4 a little bit higher, maybe 5 at the S tier, or maybe even 7 at the S tier. Each Dynasty Warriors game definitely has its strengths and weaknesses, Unless you're 9, then you definitely have a lot of weaknesses. Honestly, I wish there was like an F tier, or I should have created like an F tier, because that's where Dynasty Warriors 9 belongs. I feel like Dynasty Warriors 2 being on the same level as 9 is not good. But I think Dynasty Warriors 9 is like so bad it should not even be on this list. But anyways, curious to see what you guys think as always. I love the discussion these lists are providing. So yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts, and let me know if there's any other gaming series or whatever you would like me to tackle next. Stay safe. Thank you guys for watching as always. And this is Powerhouse signing off.